Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Relieve Regret podcast. My name is Victoria Muir-Bercia, and I'm here with my lovely co-host.
It's me, Shadoe. No, I just thought that would be fun.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Anyways, welcome to another episode of Let's Relieve Regret, everybody. We are recording on a Friday here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. How are you feeling today, Shadoe, on a scale of 1 to 10?
That scale of 1 to 10 thing is actually really top of mind today because a scale of 1 to 10 is how we measure air quality. For me personally, I'm feeling about a 6.5, almost a 7. It's been really smoky here the last couple days, as like anyone in Ontario and even New York and other places can tell you. Like, I know I'm nowhere near the fires, so I should be grateful that like all I'm dealing with is the smoke.
We're talking about forest fires here,
Yeah.
listeners.
Yeah.
There's forest fires widespread across Canada right now.
Yeah. I'm learning that like the air quality index is like kind of like golf. You want the lower number, you don't want the higher number. So a 10 out of 10 on air quality is actually terrible, and a 1 out of 10 is good. I'm feeling about a 6 out of 10. Currently outside, it's about like a 3 out of 10 in terms of air quality, which is way better than it's been.
That's good.
Yeah, this week it's been really, really high. Yeah, so I think it's just like I've been kind of, stuck inside the last couple of days. Like even when I go to walk Gertie, like we don't want to be out very long. We've been masking up again. I mean, not Gertie, even though that would be so cute. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to the weekend. It's supposed to clear up right down to like a 1 out of 10 for the weekend, but then it's going to get smoky again throughout next week. And again, I'm so grateful that none of my loved ones are near the fires or impacted by the fires other than the smoke. But yeah, it is impacting my mood quite significantly this week. So I'm about a 6 out of 10 today. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same. I'm actually really surprised about it. I have members in the My Recreo community across Canada, and we do Zoom calls. We do 6 Zoom calls a week. We do 6 classes a week. And they've been talking about the smoke, my members in Alberta and even BC. And then once it hit here, I really realized like what they've been going through, my members and my clients in the areas of Canada that have had the smoke for months now. Yeah. Right. Because the forest fires they started in Alberta, and now we've got forest fires in Quebec and in Northern Ontario and in BC and in Nova Scotia. And then when the smoke hit Toronto yesterday, you can see it just kind of looked like a hazy day. And I went outside for my daily walk and I was coughing and I was like, oh, wow. Oh, this is real. And it made me a bit more sensitive to understanding what those northern communities are like, or those in other provinces when they get the forest fire like warnings, I think more often than we do in the big, like in Toronto and in the big cities and in the southern cities. I mean, I have mild asthma, but I haven't had an attack in years. And I was just walking down the street coughing and wheezing. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. Like the air is dense. It's dense. So yeah, I'm a little tired today, a little poop. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, but it is clearing, which is nice. We were really scared that it was going to be really bad yesterday. And then we got rain and cloud cover, which helped. But, I've been staying inside too, because that was a weird walk on, I think it was 2 days ago. It was just weird. Yeah. I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe how much this is affecting me. So, yeah. So anyways, my heart goes out to everyone, because I think everyone's feeling it, especially those, not just the smoke, obviously impacted by being evacuated and all those sorts of things, but it really opened my eyes about it for sure.
Yeah.
Flipping to the other side of the coin, do you have a cause for applause?
I do, actually. This has been something I have been like in for a while, but just got my first like real transaction recently. So I'm a big fan of the Buy Nothing groups. So they're on Facebook. I'm sure there's other places you can find them too. But people post stuff that's for free. It's like, just come take it away from me. Like,
oh, cool. I don't know about these groups. Okay.
Oh, they're awesome. Yeah. Like you just have to look up Buy Nothing, like BUY nothing, and then your city. Or like for me, it's like I'm in a specific place in the city. So it's like Buy Nothing City Place. So I'm in this Facebook group, and like you can put anything up there. Like honestly, and people take stuff. Like, and so it works for the people who want stuff, but also if you're someone who needs to get rid of stuff, it's so easy to be like actually I have to put up a new post tonight because I have decaf coffee for some reason. I guess like I just grabbed the wrong bag or whatever. And this is from like about a month ago. And I just keep being like, oh, maybe I'll make some decaf at night. No. So now I'm just going to like give it away on the
Yeah.
group because what am I doing with it? Like maybe someone wants the decaf coffee. I'm going to try. But last week, someone just moved to our neighborhood and they brought too much stuff with them. So now instead of unpacking, they're just being like, come take some of this stuff. So I got this like huge bag of art supplies and stationery and stuff, which like I've been trying to not buy more stationery, but this I didn't buy. This I like got for free. So it's like
You
I'm
found a
allowed to get
workaround.
it. I found a workaround because I'm
workaround.
trying to not buy pens and papers and markers and all those sorts of things, even though they're my favorite. And actually, I got some like really good things out of it, and like some pads of paper that are just like stashed all over the place now, and things like that. I also got some like brand new markers and stuff that I'm going to bring up to my family reunion in August, and like, you know, just make like a little station for the kids. And yeah, it just like felt so cool to like, she was so, the person who gave them to me was so grateful because like she was just going to throw them away, and I'm so grateful to like get those things from her. That's my cause for applause. I like the buy nothing groups.
That's cool. I'm gonna check that out because I always feel like getting rid of stuff. I'm like, I don't want to throw it in the garbage, but I'm not really sure if I donate it, if it goes somewhere, or yeah, that's cool. My cause for applause is last week I dyed my hair purple again.
Yay!
And I feel better.
Nice.
I'm always like debating because it's summertime. Do I just go black? Do I just dye black for the summer? What do I do? I mean, I didn't bleach it. I just re-dyed over the bleach. It was looking pretty bad. It was looking orange because all the dye had worn off. So all the bleach bits in my hair were. So anyways, I dyed it purple and I feel better. I always feel better because purple's my power color, everybody. And I always feel better when my hair's purple.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So like, are you doing anything to make sure it like sucks into the hair this time?
It won't suck in.
No.
It can't. It's impossible to find permanent hair color for purple.
Right.
It's always semi-permanent. And that's why I always consider not doing it in the summer, because when I go swimming, a little bit of it comes out every time I go swimming.
Yeah, that's interesting because like every time I've had any kind of like reddish in my hair, it does not come out. Like if I try to dye it back to brown, black, like the red just holds onto my hair. So maybe it's the red part, not the blue part of the purple that is like making it unstable. Because yeah, like, and every year around the fall, I always get like, you know, what about a little bit of red? It would just make your eyes pop. And it does, but like, I don't get my hair done every 6 weeks. I go every 6 months, if that. So like, I can't be getting stuff that's just going to look weird when it grows out. So actually on that topic, I read the most uplifting, I mean, it's not necessarily uplifting, but it made me smile. Do you know this Barbie movie that's coming out?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I know, me too.
I hope it's good. I hope it's not like, you know how there was so much hype for Cats and the Cats was terrible. I really hope the Barbie movie's good. I think it's going to be, but I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it too. And I saw a post this week where apparently they used so much pink paint on that set that they caused a national shortage.
Oh, no way.
Pink paint. If anything, I'm hoping that the movie helps make bright pink more available because I love bright pink stuff. But
I don't like pink.
Like no shades of pink.
I guess like neon pink is cool.
Right.
I don't like bubblegum pink or pink. I don't know. This is really interesting for me anyways. Like I find a lot of female owned small businesses, and I'm a female owned small business. It's pink and like all their business colors pink, everything's pink. And I think it's feeding into like the gender specific pink and blue.
Okay.
I don't know. And I've never really liked pink. Like I probably liked it when I was a kid because I was told that girls like pink, but then I quickly turned over to more blues and purples, but I don't know why we're still like feeding into this pink means females.
It's so funny.
And I see it so much in marketing and so much in women-owned small businesses.
That's fair. I'm actually the opposite. I love pink. I love all shades of pink. There isn't a shade of pink I don't like. Whether it's like even a deep burgundy, like I love pink.
But I don't think burgundy's pink. I think
it
burgundy's
is
red.
No, I feel like, well, maybe this will be a question we have to ask our listeners. Burgundy, I feel like, is at the very end of the pink to red spectrum. I guess it kind of like, and then like bright pinks, light pinks, all of it. I love it all. And I actually find there's a lot of pressure to not like pink as a girl. And to like, because it's so cliche and all these things that like, oh, I'm a girl, I like pink. I feel like there's a lot of pushback to not like pink. And the more I like it, I don't know. It's interesting that we both have such strong feelings about it. And it's just kind of like different sides, I guess. Yeah.
That's why we do this podcast, because we're opposite in many ways. To show
like I'm even just looking around my desk and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different shades of pink within my like gaze. Markers, highlighters, two different types of pink highlighter. There's a crayon, there's my Post-its. Yeah, pink makes me happy, especially bright pink. And not even neon.
With colors, everyone, you find the color that makes you happy. Obviously for me it's purple, for you it's pink, but yeah, I don't love pink.
That's fair.
I love purples and blues.
Yeah, that's fair.
Should we get to our stories?
I guess.
I think you're first.
That works for me.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, great. So I was inspired last week when you kind of shared something that wasn't a regret, but I'm doing something that is not, it's not something I've moved past yet. So it's like an active regret, not like a regret from the past. I have an experience I need to let go of in order to move forward. I regret being afraid of hobbies I knew I was bad at. I love the idea that everyone who was good at something was brave enough to suck at it first, or suck at it first. But for myself, I'm so scared of being annoying. I've shied away from the hobbies I knew I would be bad at. It's like I do want to push myself, but only at a comfortable pace. And one of the consequences I'm missing out on due to holding on to this regret is that I still don't choose the hobbies that would bring me the most joy. For example, I love to sing. I desperately want to be a good singer. It has been much easier to say to myself, oh, I'm bad at that, than to actively give it a real try. Like I did choir and stuff in high school, but that's about it. Another consequence is that the hobbies I do choose are based on a mix of ease and potential income. These have not brought me joy. And except for a very few times, it has not really brought income either. I'm not quite ready to release this regret. I want to say I've done everything I could in those moments with the tools I had at the time, but it's not entirely true. I've had options to choose singing classes over improv, and I chose improv. I'm eager to sit with this idea and relieved to have shared it here. I am worthy of trying new things. I understand that. I also love singing in the shower, on road trips, and in my kitchen. But I always use the crutch of my goofiness to feel comfortable enough to do this. So in closing, I'm growing. I can feel myself growing. This is almost like a Charlie horse of growth. I want to be a good singer. I want to be able to carry a tune, but I also don't want to give up this idea that like, oh, I'm a bad singer and things like that. So I don't know. I am not really ready to let it go, but I can feel it weighing on me. So I'm going to open it back to you, Victoria, for feedback.
That's so interesting. So you would like feedback?
Yeah.
Okay. This is cool because I think a lot of people can probably relate to this. Okay, I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Is it just singing?
No, there's tons of other things that I've like wanted to try, but like because like I just want to be good at things right away. And I don't know if that's the ADHD or the fact that like when I was younger, things did just come easier to me. Like if I try something and I'm not immediately good at it, I just move on. Like singing is one of those things that I've wanted to be good at since I was really young.
So you would try things you were good at it and you would move on because you got bored?
No, like the opposite. If I was good at it, I would keep doing it.
Oh, okay.
But if I was bad at it, I would just move on. Like I would just be like, oh, no, not that one's not for me. Like sewing. Oh my gosh, I took a sewing workshop here in Toronto, probably the first year I lived here. And I still made the thing. It was a makeup bag. I made the thing at the workshop. But because I was like not the teacher's pet, and I was the worst one in the class and I kept falling behind, I never went back. I never wanted to like be in that situation again where like I needed the most help. I like being the helper. I like being the best in the class. I don't like being the person who's like, oh, excuse me, I don't know how to do this. Oh, can you repeat that step again? I hate being that person. And so I just didn't go back. But now there's things that I want to sew for myself. And like, I'm too scared to go back to like a sewing place, you know?
What's the fear?
I don't know. I think I already have a lot of fear about like being in public in general. And so if I can be a helpful person, it kind of helps that fear dissipate a bit. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
What are the hobbies that you have chosen?
Things like improv, things like writing, this podcast. And not that this podcast is easy, it definitely isn't. But it already aligns with things I want to do, like having honest conversations, like having a connection with you, like putting things up on Instagram. Like those are, again, not easy, but they're not difficult. They're kind of in the middle.
And you get something out of them in terms of feeling like you're being of service, I guess.
I think so. I think that's part of it. Yeah. Or like when Gertie was still like, when Gertie doesn't do this anymore because she hates the camera now. But when she was a puppy, I was putting up new content of her every day. So I had to set up her own Instagram account. And that brought me a lot of joy for a while. And then I would be out walking her and I'd pull out my phone and she would just like move her face or like, you know, and eventually I was like, oh, okay, you don't like this. So I'm not going to force you to do this anymore. But like the people who were loving it really did love it. They were like, oh my God, what a cute dog. Oh, she's so wonderful. She's so this, she's so that. And like that brought me joy because I was making people happy. Or not making them happy, just helping them feel a moment of happiness, I guess.
Yeah. I have a couple comments about that. Well, we've talked about this before.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually going to talk about this in my regret too, is the like meeting the emotional needs.
Right.
Okay. So meeting emotional needs, right? So you're definitely meeting the emotional need of contributing, being of service, feeling significant,
right,
is an emotional need. Feeling love, like feeling significant is different from feeling love, but they're kind of connected, right? And then the other emotional needs are certainty. So you're kind of meeting that because you're like, I know I'm going to be good at this.
Right.
If I learn this, I'm going to be good at it. So certainty. But then the one that you're kind of missing is variety and growth.
Right.
So review listeners. Remember, there's 6 basic emotional needs and we want them. They don't necessarily have to be in balance, but we need to meet them all. You might meet some more than the other, but you need to meet them all in order to feel emotionally healthy and to feel like balanced and in tune with yourself. And they are certainty. What are you sure of? Variety. So variety or challenge, like things that you're unsure of. Variety, diversity falls under variety. Growth. So you need to be challenged to push yourself to grow. Then feeling significant and important, being loved, and then contribution or being of service. You shy away in terms of what you're saying about hobbies and stuff or what you're doing from variety and growth. So you don't have to answer this, but like, what's the fear there around variety and growth? Something for you to think about. You can answer.
Yeah, no, I do have some answers. I think, again, it's like I've become so comfortable in the role of providing for others, being like, you know, being interesting, like helping people get to where they need to go, like being a supportive person to vent to. Like I love doing all those things. Also, like I feel like you're someone who's taught music, I believe, or some sort of. Have you ever?
At one point in my life, I played 7 different instruments and I was a semi-professional singer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a wedding singer and a funeral.
That's actually kind of amazing. We should definitely talk more about that. But I feel like I wouldn't want, like, okay, let's say you were offering singing lessons and I came to you and I'm just terrible. I am just the worst singer you've ever heard. I wouldn't want you to feel like, I don't know, like I guess.
But are you paying me to give you the lessons?
Yes.
So why do you care what I think? Why do you care about what
Oh,
my
because I
feelings
want
are
to
around it
impress
if
the
you're paying me
teacher.
for a service?
I want to be the best student. I want to be the teacher's pet. I want to be the person who like the other people in the class go to for advice.
You
I
want
think
significance.
I think I've just become comfortable in that role too. Like the amount of times I've walked into a new room and everyone in that room goes, "Oh, thankfully the teacher's here." And I'm not the teacher. But like I've heard that like more times than I've not heard that when I enter a room.
Why does that feel good?
It doesn't always feel good. It's just become really comfortable for me to feel that. Yeah, like when I'm not going to be that person, it's a struggle. Like it's become like a role I've learned how to play. And I think like, and that like when I really investigate this, that's one of the biggest things that's holding me back, is that like I don't want to go do something and not get an A+, not get the gold star, not get the, and again, it's not that I always got straight A's in my schooling or anything like that. It's just like, I don't know exactly what it is, but
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Do you know how to fail, or are you comfortable with failing?
I feel like yes, but also no. I feel like that's a complicated question. I feel like I feel like because I have failed, I would say yes, but that's not necessarily the same thing as knowing how to do that.
Right. So when you fail, so you're
Mhm.
trying a new hobby and you're not good at it and you need to keep
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
Your go-to action is to walk away.
Oh, totally. Fail then bail. Absolutely.
So your go-to attitude isn't F this. I'm going to try harder. I need to like, I need to get this. Like, I'm not getting it. How am I going to, like, your go-to isn't persistence.
No.
Your go-to is to walk away.
Yeah. Find something else. Find something else that's interesting.
Because that feels vulnerable.
I don't know. It just, yeah, they're like, I can't put a word to it. But physically I can feel it like in my arms. Like I already feel this, like even just like talking about it, I feel like I want to throw something. And I've like gathered a bunch of my pens and markers in my hand just to like not start scratching at myself, which again, if you haven't listened to the BFRB episode, that is a good one.
Do you think it has something to do with your ADHD?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I also think it's that like, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, like when I was a kid, I was the best at stuff, but like only at the stuff I wanted to be the best at. Like if I look back on it, like stuff that I wasn't good at, I just didn't do. So yeah.
Have you ever heard this? This is interesting. If you're only practicing what you're good at, you're not actually practicing. Like if you only participate in what you're good at, you're not actually growing, right?
I think rationally, I understand that. Intellectually, I understand that.
Yeah.
But in action, I don't live it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm similar actually. And this is like a perfect example of understanding something rationally and intellectually, but needing to understand programming. The programming that we have in our subconscious brain from all of our life experiences is deep. We have to pull into that rational and intellectual and really talk to ourselves and really challenge ourselves. When we become aware of the programming we have, we can then say, I know this is my programming that's doing this. So it's just my brain playing tricks on me, or it's just the programming I have, and I can work through this and I can find support to work through it. I can work through it on my own. I can find fun ways to work through it, whatever it is. But I think like at the end of your regret story today, you were saying like, I feel the weight of this lifting. And I think that's what's happened is you're aware of this pattern in yourself now. And now you're like, what do I do with this pattern? Because it's clearly something that I'm aware of now. So rationally and intellectually, what do I do with the pattern and how do I want to change?
I think again, it's not necessarily that it's lifting, it's that like I've discovered it. It's not, it's not just about the singing. Like the singing is like perfect example, because again, it's like when I am bad at something, I just kind of laugh it off, or I'm such a goof, oh my gosh, there goes Shadoe in her very silly like ways. And that's more comfortable to me than giving something an honest, real try.
It's more comfortable to make fun of yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because we don't know how to fail, right? Like it's more comfortable to
Yeah.
make fun of yourself so you can make a story out of it than to be like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, I sucked at that, but I want to get better at that. And how do I get better at
Mm-hmm.
that? And what are the steps I'm going to do to get better at that? And how do I do that?
Yeah.
And when we do that, we have to drop our ego. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to drop our ego and to say, and
Yeah.
to be humble and to say, I want to be better at this thing,
Mm-hmm.
which means I have to do work to be better at it.
Yeah.
But then the ego is like, well, I don't want to do that, stupid or whatever. You already are
Yeah.
good at it, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
and that's again a practice in self-awareness is understanding when your ego is coming in to protect you because it doesn't want you to do hard things. The ego never
Mm-hmm.
wants you to do
Mm-hmm.
hard things.
Right.
The ego only ever wants you to do easy things.
Mm-hmm.
Its literal job in the brain is to protect you and stop you from expending energy.
Right.
Like that's the ego's job. The ego's job is to prevent change,
Mm-hmm.
basically, because
Mm-hmm.
it wants you to feel safe.
Yeah.
So emotionally, physically, intellectually, whatever, the ego's job is to make you feel safe. And if
Mm-hmm.
that means you don't have any kind of change, then you're safe because sitting
Yeah.
in your comfort zone is safety.
Mm-hmm.
That's safe.
Yeah, I think it even bleeds over to this like thing where like Ben and I are practicing a lot more proactive planning in our lives. We meet once a month and we talk about financial goals, emotional goals, person goal, like people we want to go visit, people we want to make sure we have time for. Like we're trying to not just live in like reaction mode. We're trying to be more proactive. And I almost have to give like every meeting, even though it's been on the calendar, even though we talk about it throughout the week, when the time hits, I still have to do this whole little like, okay, setting the stage, get out all the jokes. Like both of us are going to get out all the jokes about how dumb this is. And like, if we don't do that, both of us find ways to like undermine it while we're doing it. But if we give like ourselves 10 minutes to make the jokes, then we can get into it earnestly and actually work on it.
You're giving yourself 10 minutes to work through your ego because the jokes are your ego saying, I don't
Yeah.
want to change. I don't want to like do this uncomfortable thing and talk about
Yeah.
my emotional health. And I don't want to do this uncomfortable thing and
Yeah.
talk about money with my partner. Like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's that. And also it's just like, I feel like, and maybe this is just my own stuff, but like Ben would be happy to not do that stuff. He would be happier to just like, oh yeah, like we just kind of float along our lives and like things work out or things don't work out. And like there's really nothing we can do to like get ahead of it, you know, where like I don't feel that way. And I feel like I do want to get ahead of stuff. And it always does work out. Like we, every time we've had these meetings, like the next month does go more smoothly. There is conversations that we don't have to have. Like there's things that we've cleared up ahead of time, and it's nice. It's actually a really nice way to do these things. It's still a challenge, and I also and him and I have talked about this a lot. I think women our age have been really conditioned to not be a nag. Don't nag your husband. That's why he leaves. Like, don't be a nag. Don't be a nag. Try anything you can to not be a nag. And I feel like these meetings fall under the nagging header. But to
Does
not,
he feel like they do?
no,
Okay.
no. And we've talked about that. He's like, no, like you need to, like, I think it's a really good idea. He's very supportive of it. I still get frustrated when he's not the one to like take the initiative on it, because it still seems like it's my thing. Like I want to have these meetings every month. It's my like anxiety that's causing us to have these meetings. You know, but it always just works out smoother if we do them. So, but it like honestly, like if someone were to be like, oh, hey, do you want to go do this thing on Saturday? Because that's when we usually do it, is like monthly on Saturdays. I would be, yep, we're not doing that meeting. Like just
Yeah.
I would be so easy. I would be so easy for me to be like, oh yeah, we don't have to do that this month. Because again, it makes me like cool girl. I'm a cool wife. I don't nag.
And that's your ego.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Interest. Let me bring it back to hobbies for a second. Interesting. You're willing to have these meetings once a month with your husband.
Yeah.
Feel uncomfortable, where you're learning new skills and you're continually working on that skill every month on being open, being self-aware, figuring out finances together, financial skills, self-awareness skills, emotional skills, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
How is that any different from trying a new hobby?
I have your answer for you. In those situations, I still have the upper hand. I'm still the one leading us through the process. I'm not the person who's like, I am learning through that, and he's learning through that too. But because like in a hobby situation, I'm not going to be the leader in that. Like, yes, like it's just a whole different realm of vulnerability. Like, oh my gosh, I have to learn. I have to be the student. Like that. I think that's what the difference is here.
Interesting.
In those meetings, yes, they're challenging. Yes, we have to do this whole ego exercise. Yes, I have to be vulnerable, but it's still kind of me running the show versus
even though you are vulnerable and doing the ego exercise, you're not fully, because your ego is still running the show slightly.
Yeah.
So still in control.
Mm-hmm. But I also feel like there's a vacuum created there too. Like we don't, maybe this is something I'll have to introduce. Like we don't take turns co-chairing that meeting or chairing that meeting. Like I set the agenda, I send out the agenda topics, I send out the templates, I send out the things. I'm like, please fill this out for next month. Like I'm the one. I
love that so much.
And like, I get that people like that stuff and I like it too. But like, I'm very comfortable being the person who creates that stuff. I don't want to be the person filling in that stuff. I want to be the person who creates it.
Can I give a little piece of advice around trying a hobby? Yeah,
of course.
One thing I would say is maybe start with something that's not as big as singing, because singing is super vulnerable. Your body is your instrument.
Right.
And your breath is also your instrument. And it means that you need to breathe deep, and breathing deep grounds you and gets you connected with yourself. And it means you need to be aware of your body and your emotions and your mind. So as an ex-singer, singing is super vulnerable. When I had things going on in my life, singing was really hard for me when I had emotional things going on in my life. So maybe start with something smaller and see if you can do it.
Right.
And maybe start with something where you go and everybody in the room sucks, like axe throwing, and nobody there has ever thrown an axe in their life.
Right.
Right. Something where you can all fail together, maybe, and then work your way up to singing. Cause it sounds like you really want, and you're a performer, right? Like you love acting. We've talked about improv. We talked about all these things. I wonder if singing is like, it goes into that kind of basket of like acting, performing, right? And so you want to be really good at it because you are good at improv and you are good at acting. So maybe try something else first to kind of dip your toe in. Because singing is, I think acting is too, man. It's a really vulnerable place physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Right. I love that piece of advice, and I'll share with you that I have been axe throwing. It was a birthday, I don't know, like 33, 34, one of those. We went to battle and we did axe throwing, and I wasn't immediately good at it. And it did make me a bit of a sourpuss for the rest of my birthday, because other people were getting it. And then like I got it like a couple times, and then the next couple times I thought I did the same thing and it didn't quite work the same way. And I had to like almost put on this mask that, oh, I'm not frustrated. This is fine. We're all having fun. But on the inside, I was dying. I was like, everyone go home. My birthday's over. I don't want to play no more. Like I could feel like all of that kind of defensiveness come up.
Well, that kind of goes right back into the like learning to fail.
Yeah.
Not being good at failing. And I can totally relate to that. I suck at failing too. I hear you. I suck at failing too. So interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think we've gotten a lot out of this. I actually already have some ideas for other hobbies I want to try that are directly related to making this less of a hobby, because I want our podcast to be wildly successful.
Can I flip a switch a little, a mindset? Maybe. I don't know if this will flip a switch for you or not, but okay. So what is the thing? It's a fear of failing, or a fear of doing the work, or a fear of like, what do you think the fear is?
I think
what is the conversation? What are you labeling yourself as, or what are you beating yourself up about over it?
I think it's that if I'm not going to be good at it, it's a waste of time to try. And we only have so much time, right? We only have so much time in our day. So why would I commit to spending time learning a new skill that I'm going to be bad at when I should be folding laundry, when I should be walking the dog, when I should be relaxing, when I should be, doing all these other things. Like at any moment of any day, I feel like there's like 10 other things I should be doing. So like to move this up to the top of the list means that the whole time I'm going to be beating myself up about all the other things I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay, I have 2 comments for that.
Yeah.
One is, I'm guessing that's definitely an ADHD
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Have we've talked about like actually, have we talked about this on the podcast season 1? Actually looking at your time in your day and how much you actually have, and that you actually have like 62 extra hours in the week.
We haven't talked about that on the podcast, but you and I have talked about that like offline, I think.
Right. Like quick math. Okay. So Shadoe, you have your calculator with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So 7 times 24.
168.
168. So there's 168 hours in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that you sleep 8 hours a night.
Okay.
So what's 8 times 7?
56.
So 168 minus 56.
Yeah.
What is it?
112.
112. Let's say you work a 40-hour work week.
Okay.
So 112 minus 40.
72.
That's 72 extra hours a week to do your hobbies, your cleaning, watch TV, all the tasks. Like 72 is more than your work week. It's almost twice your work week.
Right.
Of waking hours, because we put in that you sleep 8 hours a night in that form. That's a lot of time. That's time for self-care. That's time for hobbies. That's time for housework. That's time for eating. And I mean, during the 40 hours of your work week, eating's included in there too. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That's almost double your work week. And we think that we spend most of our time at work.
Right.
Because we're not aware of the time around it. Right. Even if you had a 50-hour work week, then you have 62 hours. If you work a 60-hour work week, and I hope nobody does, God.
Yeah.
If you work a 60 or 70-hour work week, you'll have about 40 to 50 hours of waking time left in your week. I get this idea around time is valuable because it is, but we also are so good at not acknowledging that we have tons of it. We are programmed, and that goes, we've talked about this before. How are you? Oh, busy. I'm good, but busy. Like it's cool to be busy. And so using that word busy all the time sends a message into our brain to program it that we don't have time. But the thing is that we do.
Right.
So my other piece to that is, okay, you're going to try a hobby. I actually have time to try this. I do have time to do all the other things I want to do. We got to tell ourselves that, right? And then we have to prioritize it and say, I actually want to do this. It's a priority. So if it means that I do the load of laundry tomorrow, that's okay, because this is important. This is part of my self-care. That's something I want to do. But the real flip I want for you isn't just the time thing. Is it brave to learn something new? Is it courage?
It's brave for other people.
But wouldn't it be nice to say to yourself, I'm brave and I have courage because I'm trying something new. This isn't failure. This is bravery.
Right.
This isn't failure. This isn't dumb because I can't do it. This is courage because I'm working through something that I can't do, but I want to do it. This is courage. This is bravery. This is grit. This is resilience. This is growth. Don't those words sound a lot better than blaming yourself or saying I'm not good enough, or like whatever the words are in your brain when you feel like you're failing?
Right.
Don't the words bravery, courage, resilience, and grit sound a lot better and feel a lot more motivating? I want to be brave. I want to be courageous. Of course, I don't want to fail, but there's bravery in admitting failure and then figuring out how to do it better. That's brave.
Yeah. And it's funny because like my ego is definitely like spitting out like tens of, not thousands, but like I like it's, there's a battle happening in my brain right now.
Right. Because resistance is your path to change, right? As soon as you feel that resistance and your ego starts that defensiveness and fighting back, you know that you're about to have a breakthrough. And that means you're on the right path, actually. So if you're like, oh yeah, it is brave, your brain's like, no, it's not brave, it's dumb. Right? Like that voice talking back to you, when it talks back to you in that way, that is a sign for you to say, actually, that means I'm on the right path, because you
Right.
are just fighting so hard, brain and ego, because you
Mhm.
don't want the change, but it means that I'm capable of it.
Right.
And
Right.
that's self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is going to sound like an ego-driven thing, but I promise it's not. Um, let's move on to your share, because I think there's a lot more that we could talk about here. And I have lots of different tangents I want to take us on, but I want to give you time to share today as well. So,
Can you keep us posted though, Shadoe? If
yeah.
you try something new, I think the listeners, because I think your story, everybody can relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
We really all can. And it's interesting because my story is a little similar,
Okay,
oddly
great.
enough. But I think everybody can relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, I think the base of your story is staying in your comfort zone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So can you keep us posted? And again, I love how you ended your story saying, I'm still sitting in this regret, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging it. And that's one of the steps, one of the small and slow solutions, and starting to move forward. So
Yeah,
please keep us posted.
I will. Thank you for
We'll do
that
an update
nudge.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any like preamble you want to share with your share, or do you just want
I
to jump right into it?
I do actually have a preamble today.
Okay, great.
So I've kind of two pieces of preamble. One is, this is kind of woven into the story, but just a reminder. It sounds weird saying a reminder, but part of my story, part of my life story that's created who I am is, in 2014, I had a total mental burnout breakdown
Mm-hmm.
and experienced like extreme, like diagnosed overwhelm, from emotional overwhelm, physical overwhelm, the whole thing, from
Mm-hmm.
being overworked at my job. And then that's when I developed anxiety and worry and these sorts of things. So this is kind of woven into the story today. And if you don't know my story, you can find it on my website, myrecreo.health. And there's a whole blog post there about my story that describes it. You know, I had the perfect job, full-time job. I just
Mm-hmm.
bought a house, awesome husband, but on the inside, I had imposter syndrome, overwhelm. But the biggest thing was that I was afraid of being judged by saying that I'm feeling overwhelmed, because I was afraid of being judged as being weak.
Right, right.
And I thought that if I took a break and I was weak, that I would lose my job. I would lose respect. People wouldn't like me. I would get kicked off of my rowing team. I would, like, all those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I would lose all the things that I was working so hard at. So that's part of my preamble. And the other one is, I've recently been diagnosed with something. I probably should have been diagnosed right when the overwhelm happened, which is really similar, I think, to what you're saying today. But I don't want people to self-diagnose themselves, everybody, because I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody experiences these feelings of not being able to fail and these sorts of things. But I happen to experience them on an extreme level. So I've been diagnosed with something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria and recognition
Mm-hmm.
response euphoria. So
Amazing.
rejection sensitivity dysphoria is like, if I feel rejected in any way, I go to, like, my brain goes to like the extremes. Everybody hates me. My life is
Mm-hmm.
over. I feel physical pain in my body, like I get achy,
Mm-hmm.
my chest hurts, right? And it could literally be like, I ask someone to go out for coffee and they don't have time that day or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I go right to like the extreme, and there's probably really rational reasons why things don't, I wasn't invited to something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then recognition response euphoria, which is what I want to talk about today, is the opposite of that. So my brain is like, as soon as anyone gives me a compliment or includes me in something, I'm like all in.
Right.
Like I'm all in. I'm like, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
best. We're gonna be the greatest. We're gonna be the best friends ever. Like I'm all in, and I almost get like high. And then
Right.
after the high from it, I get really exhausted and fatigued, because I've
Mm-hmm.
literally like given myself a dopamine dump. Like my brain, when I get recognized for something or a compliment, or my brain actually gives me more dopamine and more adrenaline than a normal person.
Right.
So I actually get like a dopamine and adrenaline high, and then I get like a low when it wears off. So this
Mm-hmm.
is something that I'm trying to manage in my self-awareness. And I do have to say this too, because Shadoe, you might say this. These two diagnoses are very common in ADHD,
Yes.
which, however, there's a lot out there saying that you can only get diagnosed with rejection sensitivity dysphoria and recognition, euphoria. You can only get it if you have ADHD. That's not true.
I
I
agree with
don't have
that.
ADHD. I've been put through. I don't have it, but I do have rejection sensitivity dysphoria, and I do have
Mhm.
recognition response euphoria. So there's stuff all over the internet saying you can't have it if you don't have ADHD,
Right.
and you can.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is, and the other thing I want to say is, like, I was hesitant to talk about this diagnosis because I think everybody has some sort of rejection, like feelings they feel when they're rejected and
Mhm.
feelings we feel when we are recognized, right? And
Yeah.
so I don't want everybody to listen to this and be like self-diagnosing themselves. Or sometimes we can diagnose ourselves with too many things, and then we have too many labels and too many boxes, and then that prevents us from living our lives too. Well, I can't do that because I'm going to feel this way, or I can't do that because my brain reacts this way.
Mhm.
Get a diagnosis of something that has to do with mental health or emotional health. That's knowledge to use so that you can function in life. And I don't think it should be used as a way to not participate in life, I guess is what I'm
Mhm.
saying. So I'm wary of like giving myself too many labels or having too many labels, but I think it's important to understand how your brain works and how your body works. So there's kind of that fine line between over diagnosing or over labeling, or how you use your diagnosis and label. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely makes sense. Yeah. I'm with you on the physical sensation side of that for sure. But again, I want to give you the floor. So you say there was two pieces of preamble. Was that?
Yeah. So one was just talking about my breakdown, and
Yeah.
one was this diagnosis of this
Okay.
rejection sensitivity dysphoria and recognition response euphoria. But again, it's not something that limits me. It's just something that I need to understand. And
Great.
okay, so here's my story. So I'm going to start it with this sentence instead of the usual sentences. I have a habit that I want to let go of, or a pattern that I've noticed about myself that I want to let go of in order to move forward. So it's not a regret. It's kind of a regret that I have this pattern, but I need to let go of this pattern or work on releasing this pattern or reprogramming this pattern in order to move forward. So I have a habit of jumping into projects, hobbies, or commitments full force without considering the toll it will take on me and the energy that I have to give to myself and to the world. And I end up becoming tired or overwhelmed and stop enjoying them or feel resentful. And many of these habits have to do with being of service or contributing. So I guess my habit is not taking a moment to breathe, think about the commitment that I'm committing to, and then set my boundaries around it and make sure that it's meeting my needs and wants. So I have a habit, and this goes along with the euphoria, right? With the recognition euphoria. Somebody asked me to do something, I'm like, right away my brain goes to that recognition response euphoria, like, yes, someone loves me, I'm going to commit to this, I'm going to give them love back, and then they're going to love me more, and then it's going to be great. And I jump into those things without setting myself up for success in terms of saying, I can only commit this much, this is my boundary, or this is my edge, so that I can make sure that I'm meeting my needs and wants and my energy needs and wants. And this is a really tough skill to learn, and I'm still working on it every day. And the consequences of feeding this habit versus trying to reprogram it, of just jumping in when I'm feeling euphoric about something, is I ultimately become overwhelmed, and then my emotional needs aren't aligned. I end up feeding the emotional need of being of service and contribution and feeling significant way too much. And I end up neglecting the emotional needs of self-care and self-love. The thing that I have learned about myself on my journey since my burnout is 2014 is that I need time alone to regenerate. I need moments of silence and peace and alone time and calmness in order to regenerate and heal. I need peace and time and calm to nurture my relationship with myself, and I need a lot of it. I did everything that I could in the past with the tools that I had. But here's my closing statement. I'm using this moment right now to acknowledge that I have this habit, and I'm choosing to work on releasing it so that I can take better care of me in the future. I need to learn to be proactive, to stop, breathe, and think about the commitment instead of just jumping in. part of letting it go is acknowledging that in the past, I did everything I could with the tools I had in those moments when I overcommitted myself. And that's okay. Because in the past, I didn't know that I had recognition response euphoria and rejection sensitivity dysphoria. It works both ways. Scared of being rejected will make me commit to something. And the recognition gives me the euphoria in the moment when I commit. And then afterwards, when I start feeling tired or I haven't set my boundaries around it, that's when I go into rejection sensitivity, dysphoria, fear, because I'm afraid that if I say no, that I'll be rejected and everyone will hate me or the world will collapse around me. That was who I was then. And now I have more awareness of how my brain works because I've taken the time on this journey and with my therapist to figure out how my brain works. And I'm having all these aha moments looking back in my life going, yeah, man, that has been what's going on with me. That is how my brain perceives the world. And so I'm getting more tools in my toolbox and I'm working towards fully understanding my needs and wants and the boundaries I need to set and getting them met so that I can feel healthy and at peace and feel like a fully functional human being because I want to be a fully functional human being. I am relieved that I've had this aha moment of insight into my human patterns and that I'm doing this work on myself and into my behavior. And I now know that I am worthy and allowed to set boundaries and find ways to fill my needs and wants at my own pace, on my own time, and on my own terms.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Did you want feedback or just to share today?
Yeah, you can give me some feedback because I think you might have some experience with this.
I definitely have experience with this, but I just want to focus on you. I really like this idea that like understanding your brain to participate fully in life. I really like that as a medium statement because I see a lot in the ADHD community around ADHD is a superpower. It helps me see the world differently. I'm so creative. I'm so this, I'm so that. Like I'm neurodivergent, but that's my superpower. And it's like, that's uplifting, sure. But it's almost that toxic positivity again. It's almost this other. So I'm really interested in this, like how you came across, like how you came to this more balanced statement of like, I don't want these labels to like hold me back, but also it's not like this label is like magic either. Like it's this middle ground. Like it's really, I'm just fascinated how you came to that.
Okay, well, I didn't come across it anywhere. I came to it myself.
No, sorry. I mean, like,
I'm
how
sure
did you come to it?
I'm sure it's out there though, but
no, that's what, yeah.
I think for me, you kind of hit the nail right on the head. It is this, I've been on a huge journey and I've been teaching about toxic positivity and tragic optimism for a long time and the power of letting go for a long time. This is like the crux of the work that I do with my life coaching clients and in the My Recreo community. It's a lot of the work that we do. We have classes on letting go and in my membership community, right? Yeah, I do think that's it. Like it's the toxic positivity because I worry about labeling things on either end of the spectrum of labeling human beings on either end of the spectrum. Like this is my superpower or this is holding me back and preventing me from participating in life. And the thing is, if you look at like the history of humanity and cultures, this idea of labeling, first of all, again, I know I'm bordering a fine line here because I think diagnoses are important so you understand how your brain works. I also think it's important not to self-diagnose because I actually think it's disrespectful to people that do have the diagnosis in some ways, because maybe your self-diagnosis is completely off and it's something totally different. Like if I had self-diagnosed myself as ADHD, then I wouldn't have understand this RSD diagnosis because I don't have ADHD.
Right.
And that's why I went to a professional to get it and to get the information. It's knowledge of knowledge. Again, it's important to understand how you work in the world as an individual and how you connect to the world. It doesn't mean that it's a superpower. It just means that this is my human experience. This is your human experience. And how can we work together to have a connected human experience?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm better than you or worse than you. It's just, this is how I work. And I think that's more realistic than that toxic positivity of, well, I'm a superhero because I have this
Yeah.
I've heard it a lot in the anxiety world too, right? Like anxiety is my superpower because it makes me more empathetic. It makes me feel the world more. It's true, but there's
Mm-hmm.
also a downside to that. It makes you feel the world more.
Yeah.
So if we're saying it's my superpower and we're pushing down all of the other side of the coin, we're just avoiding our emotions and ourselves, and we're not helping ourselves heal in the moments when we are experiencing the other side of the coin that's not the superpower. And when we avoid
Mm-hmm.
and push down, it's always going to come back out in some
Yeah.
destructive way. Yelling at someone, being self-destructive, whatever it is. So let's just live a real human experience here, everybody, that
Mm-hmm.
is diverse and that has the emotions, all of the emotions on the spectrum. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I fight against toxic positivity, or this idea of like, well, like using the label on either end of the spectrum. Use the
Right.
label in the middle of the spectrum
Yeah. No,
because
I
it's
like
real.
that. Yeah. I do just want to make a quick disclaimer here that I actually completely disagree with you on the self-diagnosis piece.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Mostly because it's there the mental health resources are just not enough. We don't have enough to get people into assessments. Like my assessment cost $1,800 and it took like 3 separate sessions. It was 2 years ago. Like it was a lot. So like, I just, some people don't have either the time or the money or anything else. And like, I mean, it is tough though, because there is kind of like ADHD's having kind of a moment right now where everyone thinks it's cool and like all
That's
this
what I'm
other
saying
stuff.
about the
Yeah.
self-diagnosis. Well, I have
Yeah.
that too. And
Mm-hmm.
anxiety had a moment
Right.
like 5 years ago or whatever, where I was like, well, I have anxiety. And
Yeah.
there's a difference between feeling anxious and having anxiety. And my issue is more, I can only speak to the self-diagnosed around anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
I see your point about like ADHD, maybe if you're figuring out how your brain works, but my issue is when people start self-diagnosing, I have anxiety, and then somebody around them actually has anxiety and has an anxiety attack. And then
Yeah.
they do the toxic positivity thing. Well, oh, just go have a bath. It's okay. I know I feel anxious too. I felt it before too. I have it too.
Mm,
It's no big deal.
right.
That's what I have a problem with,
That's fair.
because that's not anxiety, and you self-diagnose because it's cool. But then when you do that and you don't actually have it, you don't actually understand what it is and what's going on in
Mm-hmm.
that person's brain. And
Yeah.
then you minimize them, and you
That's
minimize
fair.
the experience of anxiety or depression by saying, I feel depressed sometimes too. You That's
Mm-hmm.
what it is for them. And then it continues to feed the stigma around these mental health issues. That's what
That's No, sorry, continue.
that's
I
it.
think that's a really good clarification. Because yeah, I do think there are some people who are really struggling and they can't get access to the tools they need to understand their brain. And so I don't want them to feel like they can't access resources that would be really good for them because like they don't have the official diagnosis or whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you on that part too. So there's a whole spectrum here of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm annoyed when people like use it as a tool to try and relate to me and then basically minimize me and say, well,
Yeah.
get over yourself.
Yeah.
That's the self-diagnosis that I'm talking about. But if
Yeah.
someone's really struggling and they're trying to figure out what's going on with their brain and they can't get into a professional yet, and they're looking at the resources saying, yes, this is really me, and they're feeling it deeply,
Mm-hmm.
that's not being toxically positive about it.
Yeah. No,
Right. So
not at
there's a
all.
spectrum of what we're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny that we both want to bring it back to like not minimizing the other person. So
Yeah.
like we're both like self-diagnosis, we have our own opinions about it, but it does because it's like we both, what the central like thing that we both want is for people to live their full authentic lives.
Yes.
And I think that it's interesting that yes, self-diagnosis can minimize that on one side, but it can also make someone feel not valued, but like they make sense. The only other thing I actually absolutely want to talk about, and then we can talk about other stuff too if you want, is bringing it back to the formula we used in my share, the 24 hours a week, 7 days, or 24 hours a day, 7 days a week formula.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be useful to add a part of the formula that is for that alone time?
Yeah. So if you say like, I want to spend 1 hour a day. So like part of the formula is I'm going to commit 7 hours a week to,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Like
cool.
alone or recovery time or
And then after that, I still have, let's say it's 10 hours just for math's sake. Then after that,
yeah.
I still have
Yeah.
62 or 50, still have 62 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think
that's a perfect way to use that tool. That's
mm-hmm.
what I'm saying. What are you going to do with that 72 hours? And
Yeah.
can you move more of it out? Can you then say, oh, 10 hours is this, 10
Yeah,
hours is
because
this?
I think there's a real human compulsion to fill in those other hours and say like, well, if I have 72 hours, I'm going to do 10 hours of singing practice, 10 hours of chores, 10 hours of being with my partner, 10 hours of being with new friends, 10, and then they build it, fill it, fill it, fill it, fill it, fill it. But what
Mm,
if one of those, like as you're like ratcheting down the amount of hours you have, one of the big chunks is this is how many hours I need per week to feel functional as a human being. And those hours need to be like by myself in a closed off room. Cause I'm with you. Like I actually have a draft regret right now that I haven't fully fleshed out, but it's about being like more protective of my alone time because like I want it so desperately and I don't realize how bad I want it or need it until something happens like Ben going away for a week. And at the end of that week I feel super recharged. And it's like,
right.
oh, you know, and it's not that he isn't wonderful, he is. It's just for my own human experience I need those hours to like almost like not be a human for a while. I guess like that's
Yeah.
almost what it feels like for me is that like I need to just like push everything away and sit in a dark room and just breathe. And I don't know.
So let me bring this back to like my experience with overwhelm.
Yeah.
And my experience was drastic, but
Mm-hmm.
many people are just experiencing overwhelm on the day to day that might not be as drastic as mine. My body paralyzed itself. Like there's a
Right.
spectrum of overwhelm. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, period, no matter where it is on the spectrum, it's important to address it because it will build.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so this is what I think, and this is why that time tool I think is important in some ways. And just being rational about your time is
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're just saying. If we don't say I'm going to put in an hour a day for me, so 7 hours a week or 10 hours a week or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that that time, maybe it's listening to this podcast, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's reading a book, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's breath work, whatever works for you. But I'll tell you what it's not
Mm.
is watching mind-numbing television.
Right.
That's not self-care.
Yeah.
And I think, and I did this. I think what happened or what happens is we have that 72 or 62. Okay, let's say it's 30 extra hours because
Sure.
let's put in there making meals,
Commuting.
housework,
Yeah.
commuting, all this. Let's even say it's just 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
The average person probably does watch 30 hours a week of television.
Oh, absolutely.
Without being conscious of that time, we're so overwhelmed and burnt out. And then we can't wrap our brain around making it a small and slow solution. Like I'm going to take 10 minutes today or half an hour
Mm-hmm.
today. And then we just plop down and then we watch mind numbing television and we just continue to feed the overwhelm because we're not
Yeah.
feeding our soul. We're not feeding our spirit. We're not feeding our emotions. We're not meeting our emotional
Mm-hmm.
needs and we're not feeding our brain. So I love what you're saying about working that into that formula because part of being overwhelmed is thinking that we're doing self-care by like, I'm just going to sit and watch television and drink a glass of wine and this is me time, but we're
Yeah.
not actually helping the overwhelm. We're just
Mm-hmm.
perpetuating it. And it doesn't have to be like 5 hours a day and meditating for 45
Yeah.
minutes. It can literally be to start just 2 minutes of quiet a day,
Mm-hmm.
a 10-minute guided meditation. And I would say if you're
Mm-hmm.
overwhelmed, don't do quiet meditations, do a guided
Yeah.
one because your mind will just wander back into the overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
Guided meditations.
Yeah.
That's why I started doing the reason why I started doing the letting go guided meditation class live on Zoom. So people could be consistent every Friday at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the guided meditation class. There's a chat at the beginning. I can listen, I can participate. And then there's a 20-minute meditation at the end. The class is 45 minutes long. I'm consistent about it. It's the end of the week and it's guided so that I'm not like, oh, I
Mhm.
have to meditate and my mind starts wandering to my to-do list or why I'm a bad
Yeah.
person or why I'm lazy or all of these things. Guided meditations. So I love what you said there. And one of my participants sent this to me too. They found on Facebook or something, and it said, I look at like the whole week because I like that big number. Like, oh my God, 72 extra hours a week. Like that's a huge number, right?
Mhm.
She sent me this one, which I thought was really nice. And it's the 888 rule.
Okay.
And it's because 8 times 3 is 24.
Mhm.
8 hours of good work or hard work, 8 hours of good sleep, and 8 hours a day spent on, then this person called it the 3 F's, the 3 H's, and the 3 S's. The 3 F's are family, friends, and faith. The 3 H's are health, hygiene, and hobbies. And the 3 S's are soul, service, and smile.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a lot. I would just say the other 8 hours are spent on like filling your cup,
Yeah.
right?
But having those like actual things can be really helpful for people who aren't quite sure what filling your cup means.
Yeah, like be really specific about it.
Mhm.
Be really specific about it. So if like looking at your whole week feels too overwhelming and saying 72 hours and then what am I going to look at your day, divide it
Mhm.
into 3 8-hour chunks.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with those 8 hours? And thank you for that advice, because for me, it's I need me time every day, or
Mhm.
I still have a fear of becoming overwhelmed and burnt out again because my experience with overwhelm and burnout was so drastic.
Right.
And so I have a massive fear around it. I don't want to ever feel that way again.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, that's I really like the 888. That's cool. Yeah, no, that's really great. So again, thank you for sharing. I think again, like it's also we're kind of in this amazing time where a lot of this research is exploding because more and more people are becoming well, either more self-aware or they just want to have strategies to, not fall into those coping mechanisms that aren't necessarily going to improve their health. So, yeah, I think it's so true what you say about the TV watching too, because like I do think we use that as a way to treat ourselves, but it's not really treating ourselves. So that's something for me to be.
Do you mean treat yourselves in terms of heal yourself, or treat yourselves in terms of like treat like I'm eating a chocolate bar?
Yeah, like the second one, like
Okay.
we kind of, it's because it's also easy, the path of least resistance, right? Like our
Yeah.
ego is like, I'm tired, I don't want to go to bed yet though, so can we just like watch something? And we get into these habits of like watching, like you're saying, 30 hours of television a week, and then saying, oh, I have no time to do any of these other things I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So
And just perpetuating that overwhelmed, tired, lack of energy. It doesn't take
yeah.
much, everyone. It
Yeah.
doesn't take much. You can go for a 10-minute walk. You can do a 15-minute fitness class
Mm-hmm.
online. You can read a book. It doesn't take much, but even if you could just give yourself, start with 5 minutes a day
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and build it up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't meditate every day, but I did like for a while. I meditated every day and I found different guided meditation. I was right in it. It was like my big hobby for a while was meditation. And the other night I put on a guided one and I couldn't believe how restored I felt in the morning because it was all about like putting like your energy focus on the different areas you need support and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but I'm just thinking about it. Like, how can that actually be restorative? Like, it's not like someone's massaging my shoulder, but like it was like this kind of, woo-woo guided meditation where it's like, find the pain in your body and send all your compassion there and blah, blah, blah. And because I've taken it so seriously, I was able to really like hook into that. And yeah, the next day, like not just in the morning, but the whole day I felt uplifted. And our brains are so powerful.
That's what I'm going to say. We label things as woo woo,
Mm-hmm.
but the thing is that our mind and our brain are the same thing.
Right.
And so when we think about like mindfulness or the mind, for some reason we think that's woo woo and it's something we can't touch.
Mm-hmm.
Every thought you have, whether it's emotional, physical, every pattern in your brain is actually a physical pattern in your brain. Your
Mhm.
emotional patterns are a series of neurons inside your brain that are connected to make you feel that emotion or to act in that emotional way, to act or that
Mhm.
action, attitude, or behavior. Nothing about the human experience is woo-woo.
Right.
We are energy, we are science, and our brain and our mind are the same thing. If you can tell your brain to think about a pain in your body, you're physically connecting to the pain in your body because everything you
Mhm.
think is physical. It's an actual neuron inside your brain that's thinking that.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Yeah. And again, I have so many things to say about that, but I think we should probably tie a bow
Yeah.
here and come back to it.
Yeah. I'm just going to finish. The only reason I'm saying that is there's a real stigma around mindfulness, woo-woo things. That's not real. I can't touch it. It's not science.
Mm-hmm.
The proof is in the pudding, and it
Right.
is. And so we need to get rid of this like labeling, stereotype, generalizing, and stigmatizing around looking after our brain and our mind and our emotions because they're part of our human experience. That's all.
Yeah. I love that.
So thank you for listening. I appreciate you. I appreciate your feedback. I knew we would have some like differences of opinions today when I did mine. So
Mm-hmm.
it's good, right? That's the part of the point here, everyone, is it's okay to have different perspectives. It's okay for your friends to have different perspectives. It's okay to see the other side of things.
Mm-hmm.
You might change your mind, you might not, but it's important to have greater understanding and knowledge about yourself and about how other human beings work too, so that we become less judgmental.
I think it's also really important that we found the common ground between something we disagreed on, but it was like we both that just blows my mind that we had such strong feelings about self-diagnosis, but it was rooted in kind of a common theme, or
Yeah.
not even kind of, it was a common theme.
Yeah. And I think it's also when you listen to somebody else's perspective, you start to realize everything is not black and white.
Oh, of
Everything is
course.
on a spectrum, or everything's gray, or everything's messy, or everything's muddy, whatever words you want to use. There really is no such thing as black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't.
Or gold and white, or black and blue.
Oh yeah. Or the dress.
The dress is my favorite
If
example.
you know what
of
we're
all of
talking
that.
about, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think everyone knows. Everyone hates the dress now, but
Yeah.
I loved the dress. I thought it was just such an interesting social, and everyone thought the other side was lying because like they could see it, and oh, I loved
Yeah, the
it.
conspiracy theories.
Yeah, yeah.
All of
And then like my husband and I like really like I saw it as gold and white and he saw it as black and blue, and I'm like, you're lying. He's like, you're lying. And not black and white, or to like there's so much spectrum all around us, and that's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have to finish off with our 3 breaths, and you always do that so well.
All right, everybody, let's finish off with our 3 breaths of letting go. Come on to the front edge of your seat. Put your feet on the floor. If you're in a safe place to do that, we always put our feet on our floor to just ground ourselves. Acknowledge that the earth is always holding us in the palm of your hand.
Oh,
I muted myself. I meant to mute you. Let's
that's
start that
okay.
again.
Okay.
All right, everybody, come to the front edge of your chair. Put your feet on the floor. Acknowledge that the earth is always holding you in the palm of its hands. That's why we put our feet on the floor, to feel grounded, to acknowledge that gravity isn't going to let us fly away. We're always safe just by being a human being on the face of the planet. The planet will always support you. So just feel those feet on the floor if you're in a safe place to do so. If you're not, I want you to feel your bum on your chair. Acknowledge it in the same way. Putting one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. On this first breath in, breathe in. And as you exhale, say to yourself, I choose to release pressure and expectations. On this next breath, big breath in. As you exhale, say to yourself, I relieve my regrets. My past does not define me. And on this last breath, big breath in. And as you exhale, say to yourself, I choose to be kind to myself moving forward. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you participating in differences of opinion, in discussions, in just the human experience in general, and knowing that we're all just trying to have a great human experience here on the planet.
Yes.
So thank you so much, everybody, for today. Thank you, Shadoe, for today. And we will catch it in the next one. Thanks, everyone. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Okay, bye.